Hello everybody, it's vanburman here. Welcome back to another video. We're going to be playing some Starfield on the Steam Deck with any luck. Oh, I didn't realise we had to download content. So yeah, I thought we'd just go through everything and I would do it a little bit unadulteratedly, I guess, and like show you the stats and all the rest of it and whatnot. So I guess the key thing to realise is I do have a new backplate on my Steam Deck, which is like a translucent one. I got it off Amazon. Looked pretty cool actually. I like translucent stuff in tech where you can like see the bits and bobs underneath. It does come with a cooling plate. I should call it a heating plate really, because it gets pretty darn hot and it sits over basically where the SoC is, and yeah, it burns to the touch basically. So I'm also hoping that you get some sound through from Starfield. I can't hear anything myself, but the thing is telling me that there is. So I am going to believe it. Yeah, so we've got to build in all the shaders. I don't know if it does that in normal gameplay as well. It might do. So yes, I've played, I don't know, probably a few hours on the Steam Deck. Usually I do it when I'm not at home to, just do some more mundane things like go and sell my loot or go and buy some guns. Basically anything that isn't really combat. Although I have done combat and I've won space fights and all the rest of it. It's certainly not as easy as being on PC, but a lot of that I can put down to like mouse and keyboard as well. So I'm trying to think if there's anything. I guess like the loading times are a bit longer on the Steam Deck, just like little things. So if you go on go to the ships merchant, for example, and you try and flick through looking at different ships, that takes a while to load up the ship models. Like sometimes sometimes there's stuff won't have loaded in, and you'll get like not loading screens in gameplay, but like you'll have stepped through one area back into another, and on the computer you'll just basically fall back into where you were, but on the Steam Deck has to reload again. So the city is actually pretty darn difficult for the most part. So as you can see, I'm getting very much sub 30 here. It might be quite interesting to go through my actual settings as well. So everything is on low. I've got full resolution scaling, but I've got CAS enabled, which does do some upscaling. Thing is that, and I've got dynamic scaling on anyway, so it's not really going to make that much difference. But the problem is when it looks soft, and you might look at this thinking it looks pretty soft already, but when it looks really soft, just like the general, like everything, it just looks atrocious. Using the recommended settings, it looks a bit like a PlayStation 2 game, but I don't necessarily think it runs that much better. I mean, I don't know if can I do defaults? Let's do defaults, and I'll show you what I mean. So this is how they want us to run it. Look, everything. Look at this guy over here. He's made of pixels, and the frame rate isn't. It might be a bit more consistent, but it is no better, and it looks much worse. So in my case, if I'm gonna have crappy performance anyway, then I need to put everything back on where it was on, don't I? Then I want it to at least be sharp. So I'm gonna put the resolution scaling back up, and in theory that should half apply. Ah, yeah, there we go. Much nicer. Like I say, runs slightly worse, but enough where I think it's okay. So we'll do some other bits. I'm not planning on doing any missions or anything, but I'll try and sort of get us onto a planet, and I'll also get us into space as well. Unfortunately, because I'm going to be moving around quite a bit, we are going to see quite a lot of loading screens, but I actually haven't found it the worst experience. I know it's doesn't look great, but I haven't found it the worst experience playing on Steam Deck, and I think if I only had a Steam Deck, I'd make it work. Yeah, some bits would be really annoying, but I don't think it's really any worse than, well, it's a little bit worse, but not too much worse than playing like Cyberpunk on Steam Deck or something like that. So in the planet, depending on what's going on, you get a little bit better performance, I must say. The interiors are actually fairly okay as well. I'm going to gun down these harmless... what the heck is that thing? Oh, Tusk Frog. Wow. Okay, well, he's an enemy anyway, so it might be a good time to drill him down. And that's actually pretty easy. The bits that become harder, naturally, are trying to shoot from a distance at anything with any sort of accuracy. Oh, these are only level 1, so they're just going to be completely mowed down quite easily. But yeah, if you wanted to take your time out to go and, I don't know, run a survey or go back to your home base and do your research and all that sort of stuff, like on the Steam Deck is actually pretty good if you've got downtime stuff to do. You know, you're not going to come across really, apart from like some of the weirder enemies, but you're not going to come across anything that is potentially going to be too difficult for you where you're going to come unstuck on a planet. I shouldn't have thought. You know, you can go and survey quite easily, look at the skybox, get over 30 FPS when you're feeling a bit sad, and yeah, you know, just works. So this bit, not too bad. I'll take you to the... Actually, I'm trying to think if going to a space station might be better. Well, I'll show you the inside of Shieldbreaker. I see this 25, this over 20 FPS doesn't actually feel too bad, as strange as that is to say. Like, it actually feels okay. It's when you dip into the teens that you really notice it, and I don't know necessarily if I would have noticed it if I didn't have the FPS counter on. Yeah. So, once we get everything loaded in Shieldbreaker, we're, you know, yeah, mid-20s, like, it's perfectly usable to go around and do stuff in here, and I can aim, move my gun around. I mean, I don't know if I'm trying to be if I am being too generous, really, but I think the Steam Deck does pretty well, because to be honest, I didn't even expect it would run, and the fact that you can run it and it doesn't quite look like a PlayStation 2 game, looks like a PlayStation 3 game, then you're gonna have to take that as a win, I think, for a brand new game that's just come out, sorry, I should say. And you can still do all the stuff you want to do, you know, in the game. You can have the space fights. I think the performance is best at the ship view, unsurprisingly, because it's full of... Of course, you can't hear me now. I said that. There we go, see if that's any better. So yeah, the game is much better with the ship in space, unsurprisingly. Just because you have like all this, effectively what is like blank space, nearly hitting 30, like semi frequently. That's not too bad. And yeah, and you could do all the stuff you want to do on there, talk to hail people, and you know, whatever else it is that you decide that you're gonna do in space. The space battles don't really slow it down any. It just is what it is in space. One of the things that I have noticed, actually, with this particular game on the Steam Deck is I know that the GPU gets pegged most of the time at 98, 99 on most games that you're going to run on it anyway. But surprisingly, and you've hopefully seen it while I've been talking, is that we'll consistently get really high CPU usage as well, which, while not uncommon, is not typical, I find. So actually, we are the Steam Deck is absolutely straining itself to do everything it can. So we'll go to the Wolf Station, whatever it's called, the Den, which might be a bit better look at the internals, maybe a slightly bigger internal rather than the outside space. Okay, that's pretty low. The outside space on a planet or in a ship. I just think that sort of covers off your main uses. But yeah, I'd be interested to know what you think. If, I mean, like I say, I went in with very low. I would have crashed then had I not docked. I went in with very low expectations really for this running on the Steam Deck, and just the fact that it does, and I can do things on it, which I know is a pretty low bar, but that to me is impressive in of itself.
Always a satisfying moment.
And actually, I'm fairly happy with it. So in the den, which is like a typical indoor section with a few characters, corridors, all the rest of it, actually is pretty decent performance. And this to me is the right balance. Like I said before, I don't like it looking like a jaggy PlayStation 2 game. Looks a little bit jaggy here, but not anywhere near as bad. You can actually make out what things are. And it feels a bit more like the experience. And when you've got it, you know, up close to your face at 720p, it's very compelling, really, on certain missions. Some stuff is difficult. Obviously, the performance varies quite a bit. Like this is, even though it's only a few FPS better than New Atlantis, it feels night and day, really. But let's see if I can show you what I mean about the ships. Oh, it's not because it's not a ship salesman, is he? So I don't know if it'll have to load them. But yeah, you can see there's actually a loading screen on my own ships, whereas and now there's not once it's done it once or twice. But yeah, you get that basically if you go through the other one. If you go through the ship salesman. So yeah, I think that's it. I obviously haven't fought any enemies in this, or enemies in the spaceship or on foot, but just to let you know that the performance is fairly similar. There'll be some drops, of course, but haven't really seen anything lower than the teens. I mean, that's the level we're at. But still, I probably wouldn't recommend doing any of the stealth missions on the Steam Deck. But for pretty much everything else, if you've got enough patience and enough medipacks, then it's playable. So yeah, that's it. That's all I've got to say. I think as well, on a side note, the back plate for the Steam Deck is doing a pretty good job because it's seems to be keeping it a few degrees lower, and it absolutely burns your fingers if you accidentally touch it. But maybe I'll do a separate video on that. For now though, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I am melting in my office, so I'm going to end the video here. See you soon. Bye for now.